He stood up slowly. The entire room went quiet. 200 people. White linen tablecloths. A 5-tier cake. The string quartet had just stopped playing. And then he said 4 words. I prepared a presentation. His wife's smile didn't disappear immediately. It just faltered. For one fraction of a second, she looked at him with something that wasn't love. Something that looked more like recognition. He pressed play, and the screen behind them lit up with the truth she had spent 2 years making sure he'd never find. She sat in her car for 45 minutes after the meeting. The promotion she had spent 6 months earning had just been handed to the man who had stolen every page of her work. She didn't go back inside. She drove home. She opened her laptop, and she started building the folder she had always hoped she would never need. She labeled it simply, The Record. What came next took 11 weeks, and it ended his career without her ever raising her voice.
Welcome to Midnight Stories. Tonight, we're counting down 3 of the most ruthless, most calculated, and most deeply satisfying Reddit revenge stories ever told.
These aren't petty. These aren't impulsive. These are the stories of people who were pushed to the absolute edge and came back with a plan so precise, so patient, that the people who wronged them had nowhere left to go. Story 1. A wedding anniversary that became a public reckoning in front of 60 witnesses. Story 2. A boss who stole 6 months of someone's career and paid for every single day of it. And Story 3. A family betrayal so cold it took years to unravel, and a second document that changed everything. Stay until the end. The last one is the one that will stay with you. Our first story comes from a Reddit user we'll call Daniel. Daniel had been with his wife Sarah for 6 years, married for 2. By every measure visible from the outside, the photos, the dinner parties, the house they'd just bought together, they were the couple everyone else was trying to be. What Daniel didn't know was that Sarah had been sleeping with his best friend, Marcus, for almost as long as he'd known her. He found out by accident. Marcus had left his phone at their house after a poker night. Daniel picked it up to charge it, and the screen lit up with a message from a contact saved only as S. Last night was everything. He has no idea. It's almost too easy. Daniel didn't throw the phone. He didn't call anyone. He set it back down on the table, plugged it in, walked to the bathroom, and sat on the edge of the tub for a very long time. Here's what Daniel did not do. He did not confront them immediately. He waited. For 3 weeks, he behaved as if nothing had changed. He kissed Sarah goodbye every morning. He had beers with Marcus on Fridays. He laughed at the right moments and asked the right questions, all while quietly, methodically, building a case. Screenshots of the messages he'd memorized, hotel receipts tucked inside a jacket pocket he wasn't supposed to find, a call log he'd pulled before handing the phone back. And then he built a PowerPoint presentation. Their 2-year wedding anniversary party was already planned. 60 guests, catered dinner, a professional photographer. His in-laws had reserved the banquet hall months in advance. Daniel made one small addition to the evening program. Marcus stood up to give a toast. He tapped his champagne glass. He looked out across those 60 faces at the parents, the cousins, the colleagues, the friends, and said, with all the sincerity of a man who has no idea he is already caught, "If there is one thing you can say about this couple, it is that they have built their marriage on a foundation of absolute honesty." Daniel waited for him to finish. Then he reached under the table. He picked up his tablet. He stood up slowly, gently took the microphone from Marcus's hand, and looked at Sarah. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second.
She could see the dead space behind his eyes.
"Marcus is right," Daniel said. "Honesty is everything. And to celebrate that, I prepared a short presentation. Everyone, please direct your attention to the screens." He pressed play. The first slide, a screenshot of the text message, time-stamped. The second, a hotel receipt, both their names, 6 months prior. The third, a photograph from a neighbor's security camera of Marcus's car outside their house at 11 p.m. on a night Daniel had been supposedly away for work. No one moved. Sarah's mother put her hand over her mouth. Daniel set the tablet down, straightened his tie, and walked out of the room. He had already called a divorce attorney the previous morning. He had already moved his personal accounts. He had already had the house appraised independently. His lawyer was standing by. By the time Sarah processed what had just happened in front of 60 witnesses, Daniel had already begun to disappear, quietly, completely, and entirely on his own terms.
The most brutal revenge, he wrote on Reddit, isn't rage, it's preparation. Story 1 was about being betrayed by the person you trusted most in the world. Story 2 is a different kind of betrayal. The kind that happens under fluorescent lights, in conference rooms, wearing a smile.
And the revenge? She never once raised her voice. She just kept every single email. A Reddit user we'll call Maya spent 6 months of her life building a product launch strategy that was by every internal metric going to save her company's failing division.
She wasn't asked to lead the project. She volunteered. She worked nights. She skipped weekends. She documented everything, every draft, every revision, every email chain, because that was just who she was, meticulous, thorough, careful. Her colleague, we'll call him Greg, sat in the cubicle next to hers and watched her work. He also, as it turned out, had been having regular private lunches with their department head. When the project launched and outperformed every target, Greg presented it in the executive meeting. He used Maya's slides. He talked about his approach, his framework, his 6 months of research. Maya sat in the back of the room. She listened to every word. She did not say anything. 3 weeks later, Greg was promoted to Senior Director of Strategy. Maya received a small performance bonus and a generic congratulations email from HR. That night, she sat in her car in the parking garage for 45 minutes. She had a choice. She could go to HR and watch it disappear into a process designed to protect the company, not her. Or she could do something different. She chose different. Maya went home and opened a new folder on her desktop. She labeled it The Record. Inside it, she placed, in precise chronological order, every document with metadata timestamps proving her authorship, every email where she had sent drafts to Greg for minor input, then received nothing back, every Slack message where she'd reported progress to him, the final presentation deck with its full revision history intact, showing 37 edits, all from her account and none from his. She then wrote a 2-page summary. Not to HR, not to her department head. She sent it, with a polite professional cover note, directly to the CEO's executive assistant, with a request for 15 minutes at the CEO's earliest convenience. She got a meeting in 4 days. She brought printed copies. She sat across from the CEO and said, "I'm not here to make trouble. I'm here because I believe in this company, and I want to make sure you have accurate information about where this work actually came from." The CEO reviewed the documents. She asked 2 questions. Maya answered both. 4 weeks later, Greg was restructured out of the company. Maya was promoted to Director of Strategy, with a salary that was, she noted on Reddit, almost exactly what Greg had been making. She never once threatened anyone. The quietest person in the room, she wrote, is usually the one doing the most damage to someone who wronged them. The first story was about a partner who betrayed a marriage. The second was about a colleague who stole a career. This last story is about something that cuts deeper than both. Because when your own family decides that you are the one they can afford to lose, the reckoning is different. It is slower. It takes longer to build.
And when it finally arrives, it is absolute.
A Reddit user we'll call Elena had been working abroad for 4 years. Every month, without exception, she sent money home to help support her aging mother. Not because she was asked, because it was her mother.
Her brother, we'll call him Victor, had stayed behind. He drove their mother to appointments, managed the household accounts. He was, by the family's consensus, the one who was there. What Elena didn't know was that Victor had spent those 4 years doing something else as well.
He had been laying groundwork, slowly, carefully, invisibly. Over 18 months, through a series of documents he had their mother sign, documents whose implications were never fully explained to her, Victor had transferred the family home into his sole name.
The savings account, the assets her parents had spent 4 decades building. All of it, legally, his.
Elena came back for her mother's 60th birthday. She was met at the door by a lawyer. Victor was standing behind him, and he was smiling when he said it. "I was going to call you. I just didn't want to worry you while you were so far away." Elena didn't react. She hugged her mother. She ate birthday cake. She stayed for a week. On the 5th day, she asked her mother quietly, just the two of them, if she had been happy with the arrangements, whether she'd understood what she'd signed.
Her mother's answer was a single sentence. Elena has never shared what it was, but she wrote that in that moment she felt something she described as the floor being pulled out from under an entire family.
She had 4 years of wire transfer records, international bank statements, proof of every contribution, every remittance, every month for 48 consecutive months. But she also had something else.
Because Elena's mother, some years prior, without telling Victor, had visited a separate lawyer, one Victor had never met, and she had prepared a second document, a backup. Attached to it was a handwritten note.
For when Victor does what I know he is going to do, your mother loved you. She just knew her son.
The second will had been prepared, witnessed, and registered with an independent firm 2 full years before Victor began his consolidation. Elena walked into a courtroom 6 months later with a case so thoroughly documented that Victor's legal team requested a settlement before the hearing date was even confirmed.
He lost everything he had tried to take. The estate was restored. Elena's mother, who had been too afraid to confront her son directly, cried when the final order came through. She didn't do it for the house, Elena wrote. She did it because sometimes justice is the only language that certain people will ever truly understand.
3 stories, 3 people who were underestimated by someone who should have known better. Not one of them acted out of rage. Not one of them acted on impulse. They acted with patience, with precision.
With the cold, quiet knowledge that the truth, when it is documented, when it is protected, when it is ready, is the most powerful thing a person can carry.
If these stories hit you the way they hit me, leave a comment below and tell me which one stayed with you the most. Story 1, 2, or 3.
And if this is your first time watching Midnight Stories, the subscribe button is right there. Because every week we go deeper into the stories that prove one thing above all. Justice, in the end, always finds its way home.